Good day, everybody. WoofDriver coming at you live again. Trying to stick to our Tuesday afternoon schedule, and that's been working best. We're a little later today, but I have a good excuse. I took Miss Nikita for her yearly exam and shots. So I really keep up on all their shots and all their exams. Try to, of course, protect them. I know sometimes people are, against vaccines. Sometimes they like vaccines, whatever. With the dogs, I almost get them all the time, or I'll never let them go unvaccinated, just because we adventure so much, and we're not around necessarily other dogs, but where other dogs have been, and they see a mobile groomer. The groomer comes to the house. Other dogs have been in the grooming van, etc. So, I err on the side of caution. At some point, when the dogs, when they need certain shots, you can ask them to pull blood titers. So the titers tell you on certain vaccines if they have enough anti bodies in them to compensate and not need the vaccine. So that's something. If I know people are concerned about it, at some point I consider doing that, and I might as the dogs get older, once they've had a bunch of the shots. Now, certain vaccines like rabies you can't avoid; you have to have that, and I'm with that 100%, because you never know, and you don't know. The other aspect is if something does happen. We've had a raccoon, or the Huskies, one of my earlier generations, kill a raccoon in my yard, and the DNR needed that raccoon, if I had access to it, as in my driveway, I had access to it, to verify that if it was rabbit or not. And if it was rabbit, they were going to want me to quarantine the dog. And I'm like, really? I said, it's had their shot. Oh, and plus they wanted a booster shot on top of it. I had to prove I had the shots. And I'm like, wait a minute. They've already had the shots. That's good, because if the dog did not, or the dogs at that time. Haley Stevens, good afternoon, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks so much, Haley. And I remember our last live broadcast where you told me your spouse is working for Boston Dynamics. Very cool. And we had Scott running what I call Robotogo, their Unitree robot. And yesterday we did some enrichment, but we used the actual, and that's the video playing here. We actually used the Coyote on Wheels. So, and the reason we did that, and that's why I titled this Fall Season, Getting Ready for Fall, whatever, podcast, because these are the things we're prepping up for the fall. Vicky Rogers, hello. Jesus loves you. Okay. So hopefully lots of people love me out there. I get a lot of hate mail too. So got a friend, Jesus. I'll let him know that you said that, and we'll see if he feels that way too. Daniel Fogum, greetings from Arizona. Hey, great to see you as well. Today we're in the studio. Last week we were at my home. So my home's in Maryland. The studio's in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So on the screen, you're going to see us setting up for yesterday's adventure. Yesterday, of course, we're getting into fall, so some beautiful fall colors, even the sky, of course, the grounds, because all the crops and all the corn and everything is drying out. So it's turning kind of yellowy, but it really contrasts well with the camera. It looks like fall, and kind of I get a warm spot. Luckily, not a cold spot, or I'd be cold. No, just a warm spot in my heart, because the dogs just thrive in the colder weather. Of course, they're Huskies. Everybody watching probably knows that. So when you get to the fall season, you just start thinking about how much they're gonna thrive in the colder months and really get into it. And that's what happened yesterday. We were flying. But I just wanted to finish up on the vaccine. So I just took Nikita to get her yearly shots and exam. And I do stay up on that. I'm always very much on schedule, and I give them a monthly flea and tick preventative. Actually, it's flea, tick, and other, I don't know if it's mosquitoes or whatever else built into it. It's called, this is the latest one. I'm on a Quattro. So they claim it's 4 different things it fights off, but similar to Simparica, which is 3, they call it Simparica Trio. And I've used a bunch of these over the years. And I know people sometimes are hesitant, and I was talking about that earlier. Sometimes with shots, some shots you can pull blood titers to see if your dog actually needs that shot, or they have enough residual in there from previous shots, previous antibodies your dog might have developed against certain certain possible diseases. But rabies, you have to get. Usually, most states are, maybe all states are, they're required. So, and I was explaining how I had my dogs once kill a raccoon, and it was in my driveway, and the DNR wanted it, and they wanted to examine it to see if it was actually rabbit. And if it was, I said, well, wait a minute. Okay, I understand that. And they came by and picked it up, but my dogs already had the shots. They said, well, that's a good thing, because if it is rabbit, we're going to ask you to quarantine it, and we want you to get a booster shot. I'm like, but they've already had the shot. Doesn't matter. But they said if it didn't have the shots, the dogs, they would have taken the dogs away from me, maybe to quarantine them, etc. So I didn't want to find out. So I'm like, I'm always going to make sure they have that shot. That's important anyway. So, but we're getting into fall, and Daniel, cold and happy, go tooth and claw for the Huskies. It's actually, the colder it is, the faster, longer, and happier they are. And it couldn't be truer. They, I mean, when I say thrive, and everybody out there that has Huskies or cold weather dogs, they know they just, it lights them up like I say, like a firecracker. They just go, go, go. So we are, we're on the sled now. We're on the actual ATV. I call it fur wheel drive, fur wheeling. You'll see us coming past. At this point, we're going past a cow pasture, and the cows are as interested as the dogs are. And the cows, I don't know what generation of cows this is, because remember, I'm multi-generational into my Huskies, but at some points we have to go through the actual pasture. We got to get through the gates to actually get to some of the areas we roam, depending on the farm we're at. This farm in particular, there's another one in Virginia that almost anyway I go, I have to go through the cow pasture. Whether the cows are in our area or not depends. But I actually had my a previous generation of Huskies really well trained off leash, and I felt comfortable, and the farmer was fine with it. And we actually took them off leash into the cow pasture and let them mingle with the cows, and it went extremely well. It was amazing. I love watching the dynamics of different animals socializing with each other, for lack of a better description. Obviously, we're not going to put it with anything that the cow technically could hurt it. Cows aren't known to be aggressive, but we felt comfortable in the situation, and it worked out really well, like I said. So you never know what you're going to find on these farms. And I was just talking to my producer, Rod, and he was looking at the video before we put it on. He's like, is that the farm we go to? Because he goes sometimes and videos me. And this is near Frederick, Maryland, by the way. And he's like, wow, it looks different times a year, different through the different seasons, of course. And they, it erodes, they get erosion, they move the earth around. Of course, the crops take up these huge fields, and then the crops are gone, and you're like, I didn't know there was this much land there. I mean, it's just amazing. And when the crops are in full bloom, fully developed, I guess you could say, it's another different view. It's like, wow, where'd all the land go? It's incredible. And of course, the crops change color, like the corn. Maryland's known for corn, of course. And it's green, and it starts off really small, and next thing you know, towards the end of the summer, it's large, and it's turning yellow this time of year. So the lay of the land's amazing, and that's why I do all the filming I do, because you never know. Is this still playing, Rod? Did I hit the button? Let me just make sure I'm still playing here. There we go. Okay, so the volume's on. I'm gonna lower that. Yeah, it gets stopped up, and you can see in the background there, just so pretty. So we're doing dog roading, all the sports I do, and I talk to everybody on social media, because people are so they're so, you're not seeing it? Maybe the cable came out. Cable came out, I think, Rod. That's why it was playing. That's what happened, the whole thing. I picked it up. Is it on? Okay. So a lot of people I talk to on social media, because I respond to almost everything, because I feel it's so important. Especially my whole idea behind sharing is that people will see this and they'll understand the breed better. Cheryl Kovatek, I love this video. So open and dog friendly. The land itself is perfect. Carry on. Cheryl, always great to see you. Now, thank you so much. Yeah, this area we go to, of course, it's like our own private farm, because virtually a lot of times there's nobody else out there. Now, if you catch them on the right day, it's a working farm. So they are working, planting the crops, harvesting the fields, harvesting the crops, tilling the fields, etc. But usually I'll give them a holler and say, hey, we're coming. And they'll tell me what's going on, if it's a good time or not. But it's almost always a good time because it's so big. They can't do the whole farm in a day, meaning they can't farm it all. So usually there's a section of it I can get to and do something. When it gets cold like it's been, or at least cooler, I can cover much more ground there. So that's when I need more space. And I don't like to, but sometimes we got to double trace our paths. So what I'm saying is, once I do one field, I might go back to it and do it in reverse because it gets a different feel. The Huskies know, the dogs know they've been there because of their scent, but it just changes the dynamic up a little bit. So I've got to do that sometimes to different fields a few times, depending on how amped up the dogs are. And they were pretty fired up yesterday. And that brings me into my technological enrichment. We were using the Coyote today. No matter how, depending how long we can play this video, how long the podcast goes on for, you might see some of it because it was about the best we've done so far. And part of that is because, as we've been talking about, the cooler weather. And part of it is because we're learning to use it better, and we're learning how the dogs are reacting to these different elements I have, like the Coyote on wheels, which, for those of you that don't know, it's a radio-controlled car with a Coyote on top of it. A Coyote decoy, it's almost life-size, pretty close, 30 inches, something like that. And keep in mind, a dog's eyes were made to see movement. So when they see movement and even just a silhouette of an animal, what could be an animal, they're on it. They're listening. They're there. So a lot of times, as soon as they see something, anything that has movement, a blade of grass even, they'll usually put their nose to the ground or their nose in the air, which you call air scenting, because they want to tell the story. Was that just the wind, or is there something there that I could potentially prey upon, or that I could potentially play with, or that I could potentially have a confrontation with? So that's what their instinct tells them. So when they see this Coyote that we bring out, they're like, whoa. And they can be calm. They can be just there. They perk up. A lot of times in veterinarian offices that I've been, at least some of them, they used to have, my one vet in the beginning, when I got my first dog, they had like a statue of a dog, and my dogs would always walk over to it. I was hoping they wouldn't lift their leg to mark it, but they always go over to it and they sniff it. Is this real? Is it going to come to life? What is going on here? They're very curious, and that's part of their nature, of course. So that was always fun. So I knew dogs, you could punk a dog. And what I mean by that, you can play with them, but in a good way, because in training, we set the dogs up. So if we have a scenario, the dog, when a stranger comes to the house, always jumps on that stranger. So I would set them up. I'd bring a stranger to the house, or I'd bring someone to the house that I know and say, let my dog jump on you, so I can correct them, tell them no, or you can move a certain way that I tell you, that they learn not to do it. So we call it setting them up. So in the field, when I can put a fake Coyote out there and understand how the dogs are going to react to it, because every dog's different. Most dogs are going to chase it, but some dogs could cower. Some dogs could turn away. Some dogs could be very aggressive and want to lunge on it. And some dogs just want to chase it. So there's a lot of different scenarios. But for us to learn how it's going to react. So better yet, when the squirrel, or maybe even a Coyote, I've had two cross our paths over the years, come across our paths, and there probably been more that have been near us. The dogs knew and I didn't. But when the Coyote or that animal makes an appearance and it's not as controlled of an environment, I'll know what better to expect and how to handle the dogs, because every dog's different, personality wise, etc. That's why we love them. So taking it one step further and taking these fake Coyotes and other fake animals, Robotogo, the robot I use, to the next level and start to play with them and kind of punk them out. Punk my pup, I call it, P-U-N-K, my pup. And I mentioned this last week, like the Ashton Kutcher show used to be, getting punked or whatever it is with Ashton Kutcher, and they used to fake out all these celebrities. So kind of doing it to the dog, but really for an enrichment purpose, to engage their instincts that they normally wouldn't be able to use, but they want to use them, especially that prey drive. So when they can actually chase that Coyote because it's on an RC car, which can go 50 plus miles per hour, then they can chase it to their heart's content as long as the ATV is with them. I'm keeping them tethered because off leash, which I've done with other generations, but these girls aren't trained like that, and I'm not set up to do that right now. But that might come later down the line. At home, certainly, I have different yards where they can go. Haley Stevens, wow, what a perfect day! The sky and the farm is so gorgeous. Yes, it was. It was like something out of a fairy tale. That's why, again, my producer Rod was saying, "Is that where we go?" I mean, it just looks. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, wow. So that was filmed, and I'm going to mention this. Some people lately have been asking me about the camera setup. I'm using a GoPro, their latest one, which is a Max 2. It's a 360 camera. Actually, this one was on the Hero 13, but there's like 4 other GoPro Max 2s on board here, because with them you can direct the lens where you want it with the 360 in post. So if a real coyote comes across our way, I can direct the camera to be looking at that when I'm at home sitting in my office chair, if that makes sense. So that's the advantage of 360 cameras. So yeah, I mean, I just fall in love with it all over again, nature, because when you're out there on a day like this, see, we're making the turn here to go down to the field, and this field was soybeans. So the soybeans are turning yellow because they're drying out. And when they sell the crops, from my understanding, they need them to be as dry as possible. Now that makes them weigh less, but that's the way the intermediaries for the food markets and everything will buy the crops. They don't want them heavy with moisture because they want to know the actual content of the crop itself, not the moisture content. So that's why you see a lot of these big silos, and they are dryers essentially. So they'll load them up when the crops haven't dried out, I guess, naturally, and they might do this for all the crops, I'm not sure, but they put them all in there, and there's big fans, and it gets them to be lighter, I guess easier for transportation, and the people buying them know better of the exact content, weight-wise, how much is there. So pretty interesting stuff. So on this dog roading vehicle, what I call it's an ATV, and I have many names for it. You know me. I call this fur wheeling. By the way, we have a question here. Rod says, yes, Rod. Hey, what's up? Did they have the microphone on? Do you have it? Okay, so you heard it. What's up? Thanks so much again for the shout out. I love everybody out there. Thank you so very much. It's funny because on Instagram, so I'm all over social media. So that way some people prefer TikTok, some prefer Facebook, whatever the case may be. So I publish the same content across all platforms, because when we find a social media we like, I guess we stick with it. And I want to give everybody the opportunity to see what I'm doing. But it was someone today on Instagram, I remember, they seem to be, and I don't judge people at all, but they seem to be a younger person, and they were not liking what I was doing. You know, they thought I was exploiting the dogs, exploiting animals, and wanted to know why don't take the dogs to the beach for a walk instead of on the bike. And I was trying to explain to them as nicely as possible, because I want people to understand and to not feel attacked. I don't mind being attacked, but I don't want someone to I don't want them to feel like I'm putting them in a corner because they don't know, or because they're thinking a different way than I am. I welcome all trains of thought here. We can learn from each other by disagreeing and explaining ourselves sometimes, and I can learn something, maybe someone else can learn something. But they were really telling me how, walk the dogs, do this, that, and the other. And I was explaining how, I was, again, trying to be gentle, but how these dogs are, that's a mistake, a common mistake. A lot of people will get huskies in particular and think they're just going to walk them and they're going to humanize them, and that's not what a husky's about. The husky will take all the loving you'll give it, but it's out the door. It wants to explore, and it wants to go at 1,000,000 miles a minute. And that's the whole idea behind what I do, is that it enables us to keep people, even that aren't as physically fit, some people have disabilities, etc., to be able to keep up with the husky and give them whatever amount of energy they want to explore and they want to engage. So to some people, everybody looks at what I do and they say, oh my gosh, the dog's pulling it. If the dog's pulling, it's fine, but they don't understand that the pulling is the optional aspect, because the dogs can actually be just walking, trotting, or running with the bikes that I've designed. So I just want to let you know. And same thing with the dog roading, because again, this is motor powered. It's an ATV, and this is a gas powered ATV. If you watch my videos, you'll hear it in the background because it was really windy yesterday. So it made all the noises and all the sounds bounce around, and you hear a lot of the motor and you hear a lot of the wind howling. Of course, that wind was like built-in air conditioner for the dogs. But the this ATV is gas motor powered, as I said. And I prefer electric a lot of times, but for this application, gas is the only option at this point. The dogs don't have to pull, and the dogs, in fact, couldn't pull. 4 dogs would not be able to pull the weight of that ATV and myself on it and everything else. So it's kind of nice because it gives them some resistance, different kind of work, which they wear a specialized harness, a roading harness. And the resistance is like you or me putting on stretch bands, if you will, and kind of, or running into the wind with a parachute on. So that's the kind of resistance they'll get from this. And with the specially designed harness, of course, it keeps them as safe as possible, distributing the weight appropriately. Now, all the dogs don't have to resist. It's the ones that have the most energy and the ones that are most engaged. So usually the oldest dogs are going to, in my age bracket here, my age group here, like Lola, she's the oldest. And when I had my senior dogs in their golden years, they would just trot along with it. Now, yesterday, because of the coyote, and this is the reason I love exploring all the different possibilities, that with the coyote on wheels, Lola was so engaged. I mean, at some point I wanted to hold her back a little bit because she was just on it. A lot of times in the videos I'll post, you'll see her ahead of the other dogs. I mean, this is what drives her. That's her motivation, is chasing. All of them love it, but that tickles her fancy the most. And again, they all have their own personality. They're all going to like certain things more than others and want to do things differently than other dogs, except than other ones in their own pack, their own family. So it's good for us as their parents to know and understand them and understand their body language, because that's an important part of it too. But she was just crazy for it. And let's see, Cyan gets a little crazy too, but they got to their happy point where they understood the whole situation, that this prey wasn't alive, but it was something they can chase. And so when we brought the coyote on wheels up to them for our watering break, they were into it and they went to sniff it, but like Cyan didn't even care. She wanted to chase it, but when it came up to her, she's like, I'd rather graze on the grass. And Lola was on it. So I knew that's one of the reasons, one of the telltale signs of her being so into it. Inyo, she's pretty much into it. And Nikita, just it's all about the hunt with her. So yeah, when it comes close, she actually is a little intimidated when it comes near her. So some of these personality traits are really important to know if you're going to ever introduce other dogs into your family. Cheryl Kovatek, yes, all Huskies are bolters. They are getting their glory this way, and there is nothing wrong going on here at all. Carry on. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Exactly. They're all, when she says bolters, runners. They all will take off when given the opportunity, unless they are trained like I've trained mine in the past. Again, I haven't done it with these girls, to totally be off leash. We used to roam this farm off leash, totally 100%, say their name and they're back with me. So it's a really hard feat with Huskies. Part of that, what makes it so hard, is that they're constantly constrained from us humans not being able to give them everything they can handle. So if you get into professional mushing country, if you go up north from where we are, and even far up into the Rockies, Alaska, etc., Huskies they get their fill because they're doing what they were bred to do. And people say, it's a modern day world, you shouldn't make those dogs do that. It's a modern day world. We humans created the sled dog by needing them for transportation and trying to get the best possible specimen we could. And that's why they're so efficient and so incredible. And then our lifestyles, technology evolved, but no one let the Huskies and the sled dogs know. So they get to our home and they're like, well, wait a minute, human, I don't have an iPad. I don't have an iPhone. I don't sit down at the dinner table with you. And, all the different aspects we take for granted, Nobody told the sled dogs that, oh yeah, technology's moved on. We don't need you anymore. Well, they still have a lot of that in their DNA. So not every husky is going to be a sled dog. Of course, there's all different levels of energy, but some of the real dogs, depending on the sled dog lines, I mean, you're talking 50 to 100 miles a day they can go with the right conditioning and the right conditions. My huskies here, 25 miles plus we can cover in a day. And those sprint speeds on the sled can be around 20 miles per hour. So there's no way. I saw someone had just a spot on post on, I think it was Facebook, where they had I forget what breed it was. It was a herding breed, I think. And they took off down the field. I mean, you couldn't even wink your eye. It was so quick. And they said on the caption, people want these dogs to be couch potatoes or something. So they were saying like, you can't take potatoes and make apples out of them. So the dog is given certain traits. People are like, well, do they come out of the womb? They don't come out of the womb ready to pull a sled. That's true. But they come out of the womb with all the traits and the capabilities and the tools to pull that sled in the most extreme conditions. So obviously, we have to train them in some aspects, but they've got all the hardware to do it. So it's really interesting. So I'm seeing if we're getting to, looks like it might have stopped here, Rod. Yeah, I think we're having trouble with this. There it goes. So here, I think the coyote's getting ready to make an appearance. And I'm just making sure that it's not stopping the video. Keep me. I did. It's going now. Are you saying, oh, it fell out? Yeah. So it's this phone. I apologize. You have it now? Okay. No, it's this cable's loose, Rod. Okay. Excuse me 1 second, folks. I'll get us back to where we were at. I think we have operator error here or something. Okay, and you got it now? Oh. That's Scott, in case you didn't know. So let me get us to where we were at. I'm going to actually see if this is where we were at. Okay, so we're going to be coming up on the husky I can't touch the phone is what it is. The cable. There we go. So I don't want to touch it anymore. You see it, Rod? Okay, so when the coyote makes an appearance, it's so much fun, and I'm trying to turn cameras on. I got cameras on my head. I got mics on my body. I'm trying to do everything to document this. And it's not only for sharing, which a lot of it is, but it's also for me to look back on these memories when I'm older. And I keep saying when I'm older now, but when hopefully I can do this forever and a day. But I even look back, of course, at previous generations of my huskies because I have a lot of it documented. And we're always just loving life. We've gone to this farm so I can look at this. I've been going there for about 10 years. Now, I've been doing this for about 30. But when I look at the farm 10 years ago, I was like, oh, my God. And the dogs, it's like a lifetime ago. And it's heartwarming, a little bit of tear jerking, and just a lot of love. So that's why I document everything. So the coyote is there now. I don't know if you can see it in the background, but the dog's there it goes. And this coyote can go 50 plus miles per hour. So it can outrun us for sure. And at one point, Scott lost control of it. So I was stopping the dogs, and he said control because the range was off of his controller, and the dogs just split on it. It was really cool. They know what to do, and they can react quicker than we can think of how they should react. It's amazing, and that's all part of their instinct, the hunting instinct, because if they were really chasing prey, and that prey, something happened, they caught it or it got injured, they would know how to go up on it. So really, truly cool. I hope you can see that coyote because it's beyond cool. We did this in spurt sessions, and what I mean by that is it's almost like interval training. So I know this sounds weird. They call it fartlek, is a Swedish word for speed training or speed play. And what they do is, this is for humans. they'll do a burst of speed, like a sprint speed, and then you'll slow down for a little bit. Another burst of speed, then you'll slow down. Sometimes it might be a burst of speed up a grade, up a mountain, up a hill, and then you'll slow down, and then the terrain will level off. So it's different ways of doing it. So basically, I call it dog fartlek, and that's what we're doing here, a speed burst. So it's for a couple different reasons. Of course, their instinct is the most important, trying to access it, trying to let them air it out to entertain themselves, basically, and to sow their wild oats. So that also helps desensitize them some, which makes them much more available for training, behavioral training, off leash training, etc. Because when they get desensitized to it, they're not going to be as, oh my God, I got to see this, versus like, yeah, that's cool, but what's dad or what's the pack daddy or pack mama say? And that's part of the desensitizing, what makes them easier to train. So in the field, they got all the wild smells coming at them. Besides the fake coyote, they've got all the scents, because the grasses and the tall crops and everything, that holds the scent of the area, of the dogs, of the animals that pass through, including dogs there. So it drives them crazy. It's like a novel, something they can read. They're like, oh my gosh, let me go through this. What's been here? And they start the way they process that. It's really quite remarkable. So I always say, their nose is going to tell the story. They're going to see it. They might hear it, but their nose is telling everything that went on here. Kind of like almost like a forensics show or something. So it's pretty cool. And a lot of times they'll know what's in the area more than us humans will know it. Depending on how the dogs are trained, of course, they can alert us, like police dogs, if the subject they're looking for is in the area, hunting dogs, if a particular what people are hunting is in the area, etc. So it's really cool. So they got the pace going because the coyote looks like it's loose again, and they're running. You can see we got some good speeds. Once in a while, my flag is coming down into the view. I apologize for it. Again, the wind was just blowing ferociously, but it made for cooler huskies. Yesterday, temperatures was like in the mid 50s, but with the wind chill, it was in the low 50s. It might have dipped into the high 40s. I mean, it was chilly out there. I was in my hoodie, and I'm usually pretty warm. So that was my barometer. I'm going to take a sip here. Excuse me for a sec. Please comment, question, anything you have, send it at me. So the flag is totally down. So we stopped here, and we'll stop a lot of times, of course, for water breaks, and also just to check all the equipment, check the cameras a lot of times, change the batteries, and to pace the dog some, because if they get into constant chasing, we want to be able to slow them down and regain their composure. I mean, some dogs, like when we do lure coursing, that's similar to this, actually, chasing a flag on a pulley system. The dog can almost like overwork themselves. So you want to be careful, because they just are so enthralled by being able to do some of these activities, and they can overdo it. And that's why when you see me on the electric dog sled on wheels, I do take a break every couple miles, every 30 minutes, etc., just to get everything, make sure everybody's doing good, looking good, etc. I'm overly cautious, but we're also not running in snow and cold conditions. We get to cold conditions, but nothing like the Antarctic temperatures, the Arctic temperatures. Sometimes we do get them. It's few and far between. But the dog, even then, I like to check them. But the dogs are they're engaging a lot, because they're very interested. And when you throw all the enrichment ideas I have here at them, it's I'm going to say overstimulating in a good way, though. And that's sometimes when your best training can occur, and sometimes, again, the best way to desensitize the dogs for other training purposes. And I'm not a guy, I used to do this, like training a dog to heel. So I used to have my dog, even huskies, they were huskies, like glued to my quad, my knee. They would walk right next to me, and I stop, they stop. I turn left, they turn left. But a wise trainer of mine, wise old trainer, once said, what do you need this for? And I'm like, I don't know. I just thought it was cool. It's like, the dog's like glued to you. And for certain aspects, if you're in public and you need the dog there, they're usually on a leash. But it's not something I was going to use. And I learned from that day on, I'm just going to train aspects that are important to me. I like keeping the dogs, and I know this might sound a little weird, a little rough around the edges. Like my dogs, I let them jump on me. My wife doesn't like it. They're trying to look in your eyes. They want to bond with you and engage with you directly because you're their pack daddy or pack mama. So they want to be in your face. So I don't want to discourage that. Now, when people come over, I try to let them know dogs may jump on you. Usually the dogs will listen to me, but that first hello, they want to jump. And so I don't train it out of them. Most of the people I know, they can see the dogs through I'll have them outside. And when people come over, when guests come over, maybe just because I don't know how they'll be if I don't know the people around the dogs. And if they're not comfortable, then the dogs, they can see them through the patio door, but they don't have to interact with them. So I've got my nieces and nephew would come over and they're like, well, I want to see the dogs. I don't care. They can jump on me. They'll put on, I've got a couple coats that they can put on in case the dogs are muddy, and they can go out there and get as rough as they want with the dog. It's just a love fest because they want to be all over you huskies. They're very animated and very personable in that way. So I personally love it, but I understand how people can, I'm not gonna say be upset with it, but they're just not as enthralled by it like I am, but they're my dogs. So that's what I do. Now, my other generations, I did train them not to. And the jumping bit and all that is gonna age out of them as they get to be more mature. They're not gonna want to jump as much and they're gonna get desensitized from it. With me, I hope they always jump on though. Here we're taking a stop. This is a water break, I believe. And because they had just chased the coyote, and I know I'll post hopefully some better views because I had a lot of cameras on here so people can really understand it. There's so many dynamics going on. Sometimes it's hard to grasp it all. Well, the coyotes over here and the dogs over there. What's going on? What's happening? And it's really hard to follow. We actually tried to get some aerial footage, some drone footage of it. Because of the wind and because of everything going on, the drone just wasn't locking onto us. It wasn't following us correctly. So we couldn't make that happen yesterday, but we'll get that more in the future. And we won't have as windy of a day. I mean, that was just on the farm because there's no trees, there's no shelter really. That's where the winds happen. Even when it's not windy down the street, it's usually windy at the farm, but that was excessive yesterday. I would say, there were 35, 40 mile per hour gusts. So it was pretty intense. Again, the dogs love it, but sometimes the equipment doesn't cooperate the best way we want it to, as I was mentioning. So, yeah, just tons of fun, and I've got some great footage to share. I hope to do that over the next couple days. If things go as planned, we'll be out again tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, I got to look at the weather. So I don't really look long term. I look the day before we go for a trip because it changes so much. And you never know from an hour to an hour, especially when you get to the mountains, if there's going to be precipitation, what the temperatures are really going to be. Can only follow trends and understand how it's trending. And usually when I pick a place out, I'll try to have backup. Okay, so if that place just doesn't work, something's going on, whether the temperatures aren't right, it's raining there, where's the closest place that we can fall back on? Because if we travel, sometimes we'll go 6 hours in one direction. If we travel that far to get to a trail we want to ride or we want to do, and you get there and it's a bust, well, those dogs just rode that far in the van and they've got to get out and do something. So sometimes, as long as it's not too unbearable, I'll get out there in the rain, the snow, whatever, and let them get some of that energy out of their system. Not as much as a full run, but get out there for 20 minutes, half hour, get a few miles in just so they can stretch their bones. And then we'll get back in. And depending on if we found another place or if we have to head back home and maybe even stop. One time, many moons ago, this is a old WoofDriver fun tale that is known around my WoofDriver circle. We went to Spruce Mountain, which is the highest point, I believe, I don't know if it's Virginia or West Virginia. It's near Virginia or near West Virginia, but it's in one of those states. It's the highest, Spruce Mountain, the highest point. Just like last week, we went to Mount Davis, which is the highest point in Pennsylvania. Well, we go to Spruce Mountain, and we didn't study it super hard. We wanted to be there. This is with other generations of Huskies. And when we got there, it was just spectacular. I mean, gorgeous. But when we got to, there's a tower at Spruce Mountain. And when we got there, this is the highest point. It tells you we went up in the tower, just myself and my wingman, my co-pilot stayed with the dogs because they were still in the truck. And when we got there, just loved it. We flew the drone. We were just loving it. And then we got there, where's the trail? There really was no real trail that we could go on. So we had to make do with what we had. So we took the electric dog sled on wheels at the time, hooked the dogs to it, and we went down the mountain road, which was more of a 2-lane highway, but it was still not really well traveled. Of course, it's a touristy area because of the designation of being the highest point in West Virginia, et cetera. So got some of the most spectacular footage. It was like a couple miles I was able to get the dogs. I mean, we rode a long ways. I don't know if you know where Seneca Rocks is. It's in some of the big epic movies of Hollywood. They use it. It's if you saw it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Seneca Rocks. You might not know the name, but you'd recognize kind of the rock formation. Well, it's a long ways from here, and then you add an extra drive to get to Spruce Mountain. It's a hike. No pun intended there. So when we were done, these couple miles was all we could get out of the area. We headed back home, and on the way home, we stopped at the C&O Chesapeake and Ohio Canal. It's kind of my go-to trail. That's a 200-mile trail almost. So that goes from Washington, D.C., right in the heart of Washington, D.C., Georgetown, into Cumberland, Maryland. So to get to there, it was on the way home, but it's still a couple hours from my home front. We stopped. It was, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And we did another, 10 miles or so. So the dogs is incredible. They went to the Spruce Mountain, beautiful scenery, did a couple miles coming down the mountain, the electric dog sled on wheels, got in the vehicle, traveled back towards our home state of Maryland, got into Maryland, and we said, you know what? It's nightfall. I think it was winter. And you know what? Can we get the dogs out there some more? Because they wanted it. I could tell, body language, etc. We took them to the Chesapeake in Ohio, and we did another. I'm going to say 10 miles. We probably didn't get home till 3, 4 in the morning, maybe even later. My wife wasn't really pleased, but the dogs were happy as can be because they got so much enrichment, so much scenery, being exposed to the high. And that it's not super high elevation compared to anything out west. We're talking in the 3,000 feet above sea level range. So that's about the highest you're going to get. I think there might be one place in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. Might be 4,000. I could be wrong, but nothing like when you get out west, talking 10,000 feet, 11,000 feet above sea level. So you're not going to have the effect. Your ears will pop some, but you're not going to have anything like, at least most people won't, from my best, what I can surmise, no real altitude sickness or anything like that. I've gotten that from traveling out west. And again, I've run a sled dog team in Banff, Canada, which is the Canadian Rockies. So, dogs, I'm assuming, like, people adjust to that. Now, they're not usually at those kind of altitudes, of course. My dogs aren't. So when we got to Spruce Mountain, I didn't notice any difference in their behavior, but it's a valid question. But that was an epic day, a lot of fun. So I'm going to sign off here in a few minutes. Any other questions or comments anybody have? I love seeing everybody on the board here, and of course throughout social media. I got a lot of neat stuff coming along. If you saw one of the I know a bunch of you did, the bridge we went across. We were on the Virginia Capitol Trail this past weekend, and we went across, I believe it's called the Judith Stewart Bridge. And it's like a 2,800 foot bridge. It's a big bridge that's a major highway, but they built into it because it's along the trail, the capabilities of having the trail run across it in an isolated area. So we're on this huge bridge across the Chickahominy River. And this was at twilight also. And we don't really plan it to be at any particular time of day. That's just when it happened to be a beautiful time. That's my favorite time of day. My co-pilot is filming me crossing the bridge just because it's so epic, even though it's a little hard to see us on the dog sled because when you're filming from the sky, you look like an ant sometimes, depending how high you are. But as we're crossing the bridge, getting towards the center, this speedboat comes flying through. I didn't even know. He told me after. Haley Stevens, yes, that bridge with the boat coming and you guys going across was amazing. Thanks so much, Haley. It was it was like he said when we got done, because I didn't notice anything. He said, check this out. There was a boat crossing under you. We couldn't have planned this any better. As almost as I was at the center of the bridge, and there's a center lane under the bridge in the river where the boats have to go. I guess it's a channel. So the boat went there almost as we were crossing directly. So when I reviewed the footage, I noticed that I ran into some people on the trail, and I wanted to show that so you could see how we're narrow enough. That's why I created the electric dog sled on wheels, that the people could comfortably pass us. It was just pedestrians. I think it was kids from what I remember, and relatively speaking, kids. And when I looked, my van, my wingman, who was traveling to meet us on the other side of the bridge, he was tracking us through GPS coordinates. He actually was passing by. So, and that happened right near when the boat happened, right when the people happened. So my co-pilot that was filming the drone footage, he didn't even realize it until I showed it to him a couple of days later. It was kind of mind-blowing. It's like, the axis of coolness, like when everything comes together. And I had nothing to do with it. It's just awesome. So we're going to wrap it up here. I really appreciate it. You got anything else, Rod? Okay. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Going to be posting some really cool stuff. I got some incredible footage yesterday. This was just a brief preview. Again, the gorgeous day. And when you see some of that enrichment and you see us, of course, I posted the video this morning of us passing the cows. A lot of other cool surprises. We went into the pond, did it all. Tomorrow, I hope I get to post all that before we get out on our next trip, because then so many things happen that are cool on the next trip. I forget to post some of the footage. So I try to go back when we have some downtime. Haley Stevens, have a great run tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone. Haley, thank you so much again. Great seeing you out here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so sometimes if we ever get a lull, I'll dig back into the archives and see what I didn't post that may be of interest, because there's a lot of good stuff. So if you ever have any particular suggestions or want to see something the way I'm not posting it, or interested in a certain area, I always love when people suggest, hey, have you run there? Have you gone here? Have you tried there? And people suggest all over the country. We do travel. Usually right now we're on the East Coast, but the bucket list is to get much further out there, like the West, like I've been talking. I'm WoofDriver, everybody. Have a great day. So great to see everybody. Look forward to seeing you on our next Vodcast podcast and on social media soon. Thanks so much.